a mafioso's assassination, a usurping monarch, a prophesized empire, and a world war. Today we start down the path of how a community of friendly Minecraft players descended into a drawn-out and vicious global conflict. This is the beginning of the Trillium War.
It's a sandstorm, a fucking killer sandstorm. I up the damn arm and found someone to blame.
All of this history which you're about to see is a true story on the Stoneworks Minecraft server. Here you can be an emperor, a traveling prophet, a pioneering businessman, and much more. Shape the world in your way with your imagination today, only at this IP, play.stoneworks.gg. And if you want to start your own server just like I did, I recommend our amazing hosts at Argon Hosting. They have affordable, smooth, and easy to set up servers for you. Over the years, we've shopped around for many server hosts, and we landed on this one for a good f***ing reason. Go to Argon Hosting today in the description and comment section to start your world just like I did. This is Delatra. She was an important part of Minecraft history. She was a succubus who was born in the empire of Yimu Audal's capital, Ernu Arak, and as a young adult, she was sent to the Western Mesa, where she came to run the rich and influential city-state of Ardat Mosul. She was a powerful noblewoman, a genius banker, and an even better friend. All around Yimu Audal's sphere of influence, she came to know many important people who would eventually elect her to be the empire's queen, people that would rise in rebellion under her, and one of her best friends who would be driven mad and violent by a goddess of chaos. This is the story of Delatra losing her reins to her empire, the rise of her authoritarian enemies, and her death in the bathhouses of Ardat Mosul. When you join the world of Rathnir, you'll see that it is very different today than it was in December of 2020. Back then, the first great states had just seen their first crises, as the VIR collapsed under its own weight, and the Empire of Olderash was blasted in the Golden War by the newly ascendant Republic of Bardonia. This left 4 great powers in Rathnir for us to talk about: the Republic of Bardonia, the Silver Coalition, the Empire of Asharia, and the Empire of Yimu Audal. Delatra became the Empress of Yimu Audal. However, the state at this time was visibly declining. Delatra was forced to fire her only good fighter in the military. There was a group of blood god worshippers illegitimately claiming themselves as the rulers. There was a socialist revolution in the province neighboring the capital, and there was a failed conspiracy by Delatra herself to overthrow the divine emperor of the neighboring Asharians. With international tensions on the rise, and the weight of all this bearing down on Delatra's shoulders, a small and unexpected little crime syndicate would begin to unravel everything. The Krakowski Mafia, as they were called, would go around to small towns and racketeer money from them, threatening them with bandit attacks. They had most recently done this to Delatra's personal friends in neighboring Sirenvir, so she placed a $60,000 bounty on the head of their leader, Mr. Krakowski. She then arranged a meeting with this mafia boss to discuss ceasing their activity in her region. They met in the city of Azithvir, but as Delatra walked in with her bodyguard, she was met by a low-level grunt who just said, "Krakowski sends his regards," and I'll let the rest of the source speak for itself. This murder could not stand, that a lowly criminal would dare assassinate the empress of the world's largest and oldest empire. She immediately declared the Krakowskis an enemy of Yimu Audal and sent spies to find their hideout. Later they returned and showed her that they were operating out of a basement in the city of Lilianen, the capital of neighboring Asharia. This could have been an awkward development. Recall that Delatra had recently been caught trying to orchestrate a coup of Asharia's divine emperor, player Zika Ost. A coup which she had to pay a humiliating $100,000 indemnity for. But she would not be deterred, for her agents speculated that the Asharian emperor himself was secretly behind the mafia and its assassination. She ordered the beginning of Operation Sharpness. Assembling her secret police, they infiltrated Lilianen and paid one of her friends in the city to lead them into Krakowski's secret base. Here they killed the gangster, destroyed his chests, and blew up the base. Soon after, 2 Asharian warriors showed up in response, Debbie and Aphmau, who tried to chase down and kill Delatra, but she and her police escaped the city and made their way back to Urnur Rock. By the way, at this point, you gotta like and subscribe to Stoneworks, or I'm gonna send Delatra to come get you and blow up your house. I'm not joking, I got her on speed dial, I swear to God. So Operation Sharpness was a success. The Krakowskis were eliminated, and so the Audaladad partied in her royal court, when she received a message from the Divine Emperor of Asharia himself. You come to my city, you steal my property, you bribe one of my citizens, and you think you are outside my sight? An absent emperor's eyes are the sun and moon, and you still think the sky does not see you? You are a breaker of laws, a raving lunatic, an unstable child, and a falsely crowned empress. By Silene and Solaris, you will make amends under the supreme skies of Asharia and Holy Soleana. Delatra Mausolea, resign from the throne of Yimu Audal right now! So this was a conundrum. To figure out what to do, Delatra sat and received counsel from her friends. The bartender of the Grizzly Bear pub, Carpicius, the Emperor of Uldarash, Whiskey Knight, and the famed map maker and scholar, Athas the Traveler. She received some differing messages here. Whiskey Knight, whose empire had recently been cut in half through losing a war, advised her, if you care more about the life of Yimu Audal than keeping the crown, do not fall into bloodshed. Asharia and her allies are laying bait for you, do not take it. Athas advised her in a historical sense. You've been down this road with Emperor Zika Ost before, yet it turned out differently. You could probably get a compromise and a settlement. Zika Ost claims to be ordained by the sky gods, yet he is only human, and an inept one at that. And then Carpicius advised, my friend, you've seen Yimu Audal grow complacent and antsy under your rule. The peace has given your empire time to wobble and decay. You can restore it now by indulging your people in a little turbulent war. And at this, the others looked to her in disbelief. You actually want her to go to war with Asharia? Yes, Carpicius did. Okay, wait. Yimu Audal is definitely not turbulent because it's peaceful. There's too many competing interests in it. A war would probably just split the people even more and cause unrest. If anything, Zika Ost would get stronger because at least his population buys into the whole divine dictator thing. That's not even to mention that Delatra doesn't even have any good fighters anymore, and Zika Ost definitely does. He could call on his buddies in Bardonia to join in, and Delatra, honestly, you would be screwed. Carp, what's gotten into you? Maybe you've been spending too much time in your bar and it's making you stir crazy? And as they started to talk and bicker a little bit, Delatra thought through these options they gave her, and she decided and told them she would give up the crown for her people. With a heavy heart, she went and she announced her resignation, and designated the player Grey is Yes as the regent. On her way back to her hometown of Ardat Mosul, she undoubtedly pondered what her place in history would be. Yimu Audal was founded by giants before her, and she came in as some foreign queen and led the empire through rebelling provinces, roving blood god bandits, and nearly a catastrophic war with Asharia. Was she enlightened to swallow her pride, trust in the terms that Zika Ost had set, and submit for the sake of her people? Or was she weak and unwilling to delve into violent bloodshed to defend them? When she got home, she went up to her penthouse. It was here that she kept the ancient and enchanted crown of Yimu Audal, the symbol of the Emperor's imperial power passed down from its legendary founder. But as she searched in its frame above her bed, it was missing. Instead, there hung a mysterious note, saying that the crown's been stolen and there could no longer be a legitimate ruler of the Empire. In the casino below, Delatra found her wife, the Velareth of the nation Aulinor, Coffee Cubis. In her penthouse, they had a great argument. She freaked out, accusing her of stealing the crown. They, of course, denied this, and both started screaming. Delatra cried of betrayal and declared them divorced before storming out. It wasn't long before news of the missing imperial crown of Yimu Audal spread around the world, especially to the people that could make great use of this development. The Divine Emperor, Zika Ost, and his military general and deputy, Player Debbie, traveled to the capital of Yimu Outall. There they snuck many of their allies from Bardonia and the Silver Coalition through the city walls. With all their people in place and the legitimizing crown of Yimu Outall nowhere to be seen, Zika Ost climbed the throne of Yimu Outall and declared himself the new emperor of the state. No longer was there an Asharia or Yimu Outall separated. By the divine grace of Solaris and Silene, these lands would be united under the Neo-Soleanan Empire. A crowd from all over the world gathered in Ernuarak to witness this event, and as Zika Ost sat on the YA throne, Coffee Cubis herself stepped forward and lavished them with praises and gifts. Outside in the streets of the city, the socialist leader of one of YA's provinces, Aeon Karaweather, attacked the Bardonian and Silver Coalition guards, being chased outside and ending up barricaded in a room. A firefight occurred between them, but the usurper's soldiers broke down his barricade and killed him. Another incident occurred when player T2 Snow of the nation Carve broke through the wall above the throne and attempted to murder the usurping emperor from above, but he was killed by the bodyguards before he could complete it. The appointed regent of Yimu Outall, player Grey is Yes, then confronted Zika Ost on the throne, claiming that the throne meant nothing. He called the Asharian emperor a usurper and a fake attendant. The regent said that the imperial mantle was his appointed right and his alone. And so Zika Ost had someone rename a diamond helmet to the Imperial Mantle of Yimu Outall, and he told him to come and get it. And the regent stormed out in anger. Delatra was hearing of this as it happened overseas. Her blood ran cold and her eyes filled with tears. For her nation was attacked at its heart, and she was no longer there to protect it. She locked herself in the healing bathhouses of Ardat Mosul, and ruminating on how she had failed her predecessors and her friends, she drank down a bottle of poison. Her wives, Tizu and Noodles, and her friend Carpicius broke into the room, only to find her struggling in the water. It isn't clear exactly what happened in there, but afterwards the three women carried Delatra outside. Her eyes rolled back from the poison, her body bleeding out from arrow and axe wounds, and her hand clutching her death note. I curse Asharia for what they did. I curse myself for trusting them. I miss the friends I've betrayed, 'cause I'll never be worthy enough for anyone else or myself. My dear wives, I love you. My dear daughter Talir, I'm so sorry. I couldn't be a good mother for you. Please throw my corpse in the mesa and let my body be eaten by the jackals of the desert. After all this occurred in Ardat Mosul, the chess pieces of world politics were moving faster than ever. Back in Yimu Outall, the Elder Council met in Ernuarak, where they bickered for hours over who would be the next emperor. Among them sat the young woman who had previously chased dreams of power and glory, only to be resigned as a bartender, who now had blood on her hands with the death of her friend Delatra, and who was actively being driven mad by a dark presence which loomed behind her and whispered in her ear, "Player Carpicius." Even in her inexperienced and declining headspace, Carpicius made an ominous, yet successful bid for the throne. She believed that Delatra made one foul move in all her reign, and that was trusting the Asharians. Now with her gone, only she could unify the people of Yimu Outall against the usurping menace. Only she could use Zika Ost's megalomania for the Empire's advantage. Only she could navigate this political chaos and bring Yimu Outall out on top, with power wrought through blood and entropy. It's a sandstorm, a fucking killer sandstorm.